Welcome, everybody. Lovely to have you with us. What a pleasure to be together and be able to do a spiritual practice together that we call spiritual exercises. Um, each Thursday, we alternate between what's commonly called a sound bath, which we call the celestial melodies, and also this, what we're doing today, the inner sound, the anahata nad. Anahata meaning unstruck, and nad meaning sound. Sometimes it's pronounced nada, depending on which part of India you're from, nad or nada, sound. Nada Brahma is a popular saying. In mystical circles, nada Brahma, God is sound. Sometimes translated as the world is sound. So sound is very, very important to what we're doing today. And we just finished the coffee talk and just played a piece of jazz music that was absolutely gorgeous. I'm still kind of enjoying a piece by Diana Krall. So sound can have many forms. In that case, it was jazz music, but we're talking more about an inner sound, a sound that is part of our being, part of the universe. And we want to be able to tune into that. Now, if you attended the meditations on Monday, we're very much about being present and being in our bodies in many ways. Oftentimes we're focused on our senses or parts of our body. Here, we withdraw our energy from the body by bringing our focus into the center of our head, a point behind the forehead and over my ears, in that kind of area, close to what we would call the pineal gland. And that's where we want our attention to be. We're not having it dispersed in our body. So we're using that as a point of focus as we chant a sacred name. Now, many of you may have your own sacred names to chant. Certainly in the movement of spiritual inner awareness, we have what we call initiation tones. But a very good general mantra, sacred name, is Hu, spelled H-U, Hu. And we can just chant that. Hu, or H-U. We can chant that out loud or inwardly. And, it's useful to bring the focus inward into the center of your head and vibrate that center there. And then we listen. So we have kind of two practices that we're doing. One is that we're chanting, and the other one is that we're listening. And we can alternate between the two, perhaps chanting for 5 minutes, listening for 5 minutes. And the idea here is just to listen within with our inner eyes and with our inner ears. So that's pretty much the practice, and then just see how it goes. And a lot of people leave the body, so to speak. It's like falling asleep, but it doesn't feel like sleep. It's just a little bit different. Some people can really stay present. Some people like to sit upright. Some people like to lay back on their couches. Just depends. We don't have any strict rules about posture or any rituals or anything like that. We do ask for the light, for the highest good, the highest and purest light from the highest and purest source, sometimes called the light of Christ or the light of the Holy Spirit, surround and fill each one of us in the space that we're in. Now, when we get inside, we need a guide. The inner worlds, which we're going to be traveling in, are vast. Just think of how vast the universe is and multiply that by itself and keep on going. So they're vast. So we have a guide, an inner guide that exists within each human being on the planet, directly connected to the source of all things, the all, the it of itself. We can call it God, the divine, whatever you wish to call it. We're connected to that all the time. And by bringing forward this guide, which we can call the inner master or the mystical traveler consciousness, we then just allow that to guide us into exactly where we need to go so that we can handle exactly what needs to be handled, releasing us from any kind of constrictions or restrictions or resistances as we're willing to open and let go. So we ask for the mystical traveler consciousness to come forward from within each of our hearts to guide us on our inner journey into who we truly are and even beyond. So we have those elements in place here. I'm going to play a couple of excerpts from John Roger, and then we'll come back to me again and we'll continue, and we'll give you some explanations, and then you can start to, by closing your eyes, chanting the hue or the HU or the tone that you have, and then allowing yourself to move and shift your consciousness. And if your mind wanders, just bring it back into the hue and chant the hue with love, as if the person you loved most of all was in the room. Sometimes like give the analogy of the song from West Side Story, Maria, right? Maria. It's just like, I just met a girl called Maria. And, you know, the heartfelt nature of how that is being sung, because the person's in love with Maria. You know, say it loud and it's music playing, stay soft, and it's like praying. It's just like that, Maria, Maria, Maria. So we want to be doing that with hue and or whatever tone we're chanting. That just devotional, loving energy just pours out, except that we're pouring it within and we're traveling on that love. Here's John Roger, my spiritual teacher and founder of the movement of spiritual inner awareness, to just gives us a couple of hints here. We'll hear from him later on as well. But these are two of my favorite excerpts. I'm always playing them. So here's John Roger.
The divine presence is exactly that thing that is present everywhere. And I could take you to a radical point of view and tell you that there really is no soul. There really is only this presence that is omnipotent, omnipresent at all times. But we talk about the soul as that individualized energy to give you a sense of well-being, so that you can wave your dilemma away as you rise up in consciousness to find out you are what you have always been, and you are the one you've been looking for. If you're not pleasing yourself by being who you are, I got some sad news for you. That's tough, because that's all there is. If you haven't found that place yet inside of you that is full and brilliant, that's tough, because that's all there is. But when you get there, that's enough, because that's all there is. That's all there is for everybody on all the levels of consciousness. The bright, brilliant radiance of our beingness.
So I'd like you to take that in, the bright, brilliant radiance of your beingness, and that's where we're going to. We're going to drop aside our personalities, our concerns with relationships and finances and jobs and health, and just drop it all and come into the bright, brilliant radiance, the being that we are, and that we're the ones we've been looking for, and who we are is what we've always been. These are profound thoughts, and you can find them back since people started to, awakened beings came onto this planet to guide us thousands of years ago in the ancient scriptures of India called the Vedas. That kind of region, I don't even know if it was called India then, but that idea that these awakened beings came to us and said, look, this is the way, this is how to go through this world. And we've been learning those lessons ever since, if we're learning anything at all. But certainly those are there to guide us. So the focus that we have is quite interesting. I think John Roger once said, if we had the focus of a cat who's just looking at a mouse, you know, you've seen, if you have a cat, you see how their attention is laser focused on what they're doing. he said we'd have no problem doing spiritual exercises. But I found this short video of a red-tailed hawk, which inspires you for this kind of focus. Despite the wind and all the distractions, nothing seems to be distracting this hawk from its prey. So just try that focus for a few minutes, and just that idea that you really are just, there's all these things, your mind is going crazy, that the thoughts are going crazy, your body's aching or whatever, and it's just like you are focused on that place, that bright, brilliant radiance of who you are. So let's hear from John Roger in a little longer explanation of spiritual exercises. And feel free to go into it immediately. Just close your eyes and start chanting. You can be still listening to John Roger or hearing him in the background, or you may want to even turn down the volume. The basic format here is that we'll play John Roger, and then they'll come back to me, and then I'll play one more little short excerpt, and then we'll go into spiritual exercises. At 30 minutes on the hour, we'll play some short choral music, and then at some point we'll play some more music. We'll have silence after that, and then we'll play some other music as well. Favorite music of mine during SCs, which just it's very quietly rhythmic, and again, the idea is just to allow you to relax. You do not need music for spiritual exercises. I just do it just to keep you entertained and give you a reason to be here, come here for the music, and just relax and allow yourself to really enter the profundity. I mean, John Roger makes one point here which has really stayed with me. Finding the time to be with yourself should be a primal law like gravity. Of course, it's not. But if it were, then that would be really, I think, change the world, finding that time to be with ourselves. So if you can make this a practice, I think it will really be valuable in your life. So here's John Roger, and then we'll be back to me, and then we'll get going soon. But feel free to begin your spiritual exercises.
People say, I got to take time for myself, and they go running. I say, you took time for running. You didn't take time for yourself. They say, I got to take time for myself, and they go read a book. I said, you took time for the book. Don't go through anything. Go through blankness, quiet, peace. Go through your irritation, your angers, your fidgetiness. Go through all of that. Don't use somebody else to stop you from doing it. If you want salvation, you have to go for it. Now, taking time with yourself doesn't really have to have a lot of quantity on it. 15 minutes. Well, if you touch back to yourself, and that self is aware of you, and you're aware of it, and you become one, 3 seconds would be a long time. It's often been referred to by the ancients as the cosmic second. It's a second, but it actually feels like a cosmic thing. It's like space and time goes on for centuries. Therefore, that type of activity would be much more valuable than sitting doing spiritual exercises in an attempt to make some sort of contact that's going to be haphazard. And I used to say 15 minutes of spiritual exercises will do it. And people wouldn't do 15 minutes. So I said, make it a half hour, make it an hour, make it 2 hours. In 2 hours, we started getting people who were getting 5, 10, 15 minutes. When you've done it, there is a contact. When you're doing it, that means you're working towards being that. Someone asked me, are you a Christian? I said, oh my God, no, I wouldn't be so presumptuous to think that I am a Christian. And they said, well, why not? I said, wow, do you know that's an extremely difficult, high level of consciousness to be. I said, can you imagine not judging, loving your neighbors as yourself, loving God with your body, mind, and soul, taking care of yourself? Can you imagine doing all those things that a Christian is to do, that they be a Christian? They said, what are you? I said, I'm working at it. And it's a full-time job. The same thing would be when you've done the SEs, then it'd be like saying being a Christian. And if you're not, haven't done them in terms of made a complete contact, then you're working at your SEs. It's like I'm still sitting in my SEs. Maybe we should call them STs, soul transcendences. Because it's not a hard thing to do. If a person does spiritual exercises, and in that statement is contact with the soul and transcendence, that works off karma. If they do spiritual exercises and in that they don't make soul contact and don't work off and don't reach into it, become aware of it, they haven't worked off karma. The SEs has been a pain in the butt. It's getting calluses on your rear end. So when I use the word SEs, I'm talking about the fait accompli, where you have done that. You are doing all those things. It's like breathing in and breathing out. Otherwise, it's an attempt at breathing. It's an attempt at it. It's a process of attempting to do, to find out. And in that, it's just time consuming. I think the preparation of ourself in the heart is extremely valuable. Finding the time to be with yourself should be a primal law like gravity. If you don't take that time, you can't get up and go. It's like gravity is there, and we can ignore it, and it still has its effect. So doing spiritual exercise, if it were laid in as a primal command, that'd be fine. But that rules out then choices, and choices rules out randomness, and randomness rules out freedom of thought and action. And ruling out those, you have no chance for liberation. So you have to have all the defaults in there, everything set up to defeat you, to end up with spiritual liberation. It's not easy. I've never told anybody it is. I just said, this is the easiest, fastest way I know of to go into yourself and awaken to that. The nice thing about it is that's an awakening to the self in everybody. It actually becomes a great sense of self-esteem for all of you and your friends, because you see the Spirit in them and you treat them with that reverence. It looks, in a sense, self-effacing, but it is not. It is knowing that what you have is in everyone and they're going to come into it. And it's just you're in it. And if you flaunt it, then you place the flaunting between you and the Lord. And then you start to have flaunting and you lose that spiritual contact. And you can recontact it though. Take time to go in and bypass all that and say, I forgive myself for this. Forget it, forgive it. Make the contact, bring out the energy again. Is that clear?
Well, the idea here is to have John Rogers' voice, not only his words and what he's saying, but just the energy of it, bring us into a state of relaxation and attunement. We just got another video that I wanted to play for you. It's just about 1.5 minutes. And when this one finishes, then we'll just have quiet until the music, and then more quiet, and then more music. And just, as I said, you can just go straight into your spiritual exercises if you're not there already.
Each person, because of the nature that you are part of God and created in that energy field that God has created, because of that, there comes a great responsibility. And that is not just to love your neighbor as yourself, but to love this world as yourself and every being on it as part of God in action. This can only be done when we come to a truer knowledge of who we are, and when we come to that place where we act out of that which is for the highest good, that doesn't hurt others, that doesn't hurt yourself, that lifts others and lifts yourself. We start to have a transformation take place in the very physical body that we inhabit. It actually starts to get healthy. It actually starts to get well. I call that wealthy in terms of riches or dollars. And it actually starts to have happiness. And you find yourself smiling when you're all alone. And you find yourself having a feeling of joy when there's nothing out there to be joyful about.
You can slowly begin to return to the room from your spiritual exercises. Absolutely no rush. You can just gently wiggle your fingers and toes together. Take a deeper breath, perhaps. And just slowly return, and whenever you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Sometimes we wonder whether anything's been going on at all, and then we open our eyes and it takes us a while to adjust, and we realize that we've completely been somewhere else. It kind of lets us know in many ways that a lot goes on when we have the intention of coming together, or even just being by ourselves, and that relationship with the divine, taking our attention out of the world, which we're so keen to identify with and our role in it, and instead just focusing on purely with what is within us. And as I mentioned earlier on, the ancients have been guiding us for many, many years. And John Roger was a modern teacher came to be with us to guide us in these times that we live in. He's passed away about 10 years ago, and has been succeeded by John Morton. John Roger kind of, in a way, just brought everything together for us in a way that was understandable and clear. And we have immediate access to that place inside in which we are all connected. So thank you so much for taking advantage of this time. It does take a little bit of discipline given all the distractions that most of us find ourselves prone to these days, particularly if we have a smartphone by our sides. It's nice just to take a few moments to put all of that aside so that we can focus on what is the most important thing. And we began by talking, or John Roger did, about that bright, brilliant aspect of who we are. So hopefully you touched in with that and were able to find a few moments to access that place within you. So we'll see you next week. Next week we'll have a sound bath, the Celestial Melodies at this time. We'll have coffee talk, of course. On Monday we'll have our tea and overtones and spiritual sky meditation. And this weekend we have the harmonic self coming up. So if you go, I would really love to do that, it's not too late. So feel free to drop me an email and we can talk about how you can jump on board that train. In the meantime, please stay on for community sharing, but if you have to go, we're at the top of the hour, so we've ended officially this meditation. And thank you all so much for joining. Just wonderful to see some new faces and hear from you. And huge thanks to Stella for hosting, to Paul and Chris for doing the sound technicians, all the magic with the sound behind the scenes, and also, of course, to Maria Jose Marignon for impeccable translations and always being there and being on call. So thank you all so much. Be well. Light ahead to having a fantastic weekend and a fantastic day. And for those of you who are just going to sleep, a fantastic night, a good night's rest. And we'll see you at the weekend for the harmonic self, or on Monday or next Thursday. So be well. Thank you again, everybody. God bless you all. Take care.